So are we ready for the podcast?
I think that to be ready, we shall pour the beer.
You're listening to Freelancers.
My name's Adele.
And I'm Mike.
We are two creatives documenting the process from being an employee
to becoming independent in real time. Hello and welcome to Freelancers Podcast. This is episode 12. And today we're coming with an interview with our guest, which is Michael Petrus. He's a comics artist, illustrator. He has his own podcast, runs a company, and made 2 successful Kickstarter campaigns. Thank you for accepting my invitation, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Hello, freelancers in the world.
Me and Michael, we're recording from Prague, and we're joined by my fellow co-host Adele.
Hi, guys.
So now we're 3 Czechs talking in English. Pretty weird. So let's start off with asking Michael, what are you working on right now?
What I'm working on right now? Well, I'm working on getting my life more balanced, like work-life balance, and make it more simple. Which is not a project, like working project, but it's still one of the biggest projects I have.
So what's making it complicated?
What's making, well, many projects, many businesses, many teams I work with, and a lot of decisions you need to make during a day and during a week. So you talk to quite a lot of people. You need to hold a lot of projects in your head. I need more space, more time for myself without work, and make my life more simple and minimalistic.
You said that you work with a lot of teams, you have a lot of businesses. What's your workflow? How do you keep everything in your head? Do you use a journal? Do you...
Sure. I'm really this kind of digital person, so I need a lot of apps. Not a lot of apps, but I like testing apps for productivity and everything. And then I usually go back to my calendar and stay minimalistic with some notes, like Google Keep for the simplest notes. My calendar, which I found that it's the best tool ever. And for projects and working with teams, we use Trello.
Yeah, we use that as well with Adele.
Well, Mike is trying to make me use it. I don't like using it.
Yeah, I roped her into it.
But one of the best tools because it's visual, and for me, it's really important thing to see the projects and separate commissions and teams and everything visually. So that's one of the best things in Trello.
Makes sense, being an illustrator,
well,
right? So what I wanted to touch on was, did you ever have your defining 9-to-5 job that served as the motivation to go freelance? I heard you worked as a teacher at one point, right?
Well, yes, I worked as a teacher. Actually, I did not have this experience of 9-to-5 job.
Oh, not at all?
Not at all. I've never been employed. Not regarding the summer jobs I had when I was like really young. So then I started working freelance to make some comics and illustrations when I was like 20, 21. So during the university. After finishing the university, I went straight freelancing because I had a lot of clients and a lot of commissions coming in. So I just started working freelance. But the teacher thing is that I studied teaching. Believe it or not, I studied English.
Oh, there we go.
No, I had this job at private language school and state language school. So I had like a couple hours in the afternoons, maybe 1 a year I was working there. I was just trying to support myself because I was scared that I will not have enough money that I need working as an illustrator. But after 1 year, I was pretty sure that the teaching is just slowing me down. And I really need to start drawing.
Were you making more from illustration than from teaching?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Was it difficult to make that decision to stop teaching and dive fully into illustrating and freelancing?
It was scary because most of my family are not entrepreneurs, and I was used to this 9-to-5 thing because I saw it in my parents and other relatives and stuff. It was just the feeling. It's just the feeling of something.
Yeah.
But it just made sense, and I had really a good job. At that time, I was working for ABC magazine, which is the like a legendary Czech magazine for youth.
True. Yeah.
I was reading it as a kid. I was reading comics in there, and then I was able to create comics for this magazine. So it was awesome, and it was quite a good job, good paid. So I have this stability to go full-time freelancing. So it wasn't so difficult concerning the money or my management of myself, but it was more about the belief that I had from the family background.
Mm-hmm. And during university, did you already know you would want to be full-time freelancer, or were you still thinking that, I will find that 9-to-5 job, I will be teaching because you studied teaching?
During the university, it was the time that I found out that I really can make money being an illustrator. I just didn't know. I've never thought about it. I thought about this thing being an artist, and maybe again in our family, maybe this kind of belief that it is difficult to make money as an artist. That you create an art, it's from inside you, your emotions and stuff, and then put it in the gallery and wait for people to buy it. And it's really extremely difficult to do this in this way. But making stuff for clients, solving their problems, it was something I just didn't think about before. So it was great that I found these inquiries on Google. And yeah, it was great. So what was the question? Sorry.
I wanted to find out, what was your motivation to stay in the university? Because I started my photography when I first started going to college, to university. And I very quickly lost the interest of finishing university. So
you didn't study photography at the university?
No. I studied French.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's, again, the beliefs from family and from being raised in a certain way. And I believe that to have the title, the diploma from the university is just starting point, So I really wanted to finish the school. And it was difficult because, maybe it was a 4th grade or something, I was decided to go freelancing and to draw. But this feeling not having something finished, a lot of time invested in there. I had some supporting from my family financially to finish the school, and I wanted to kind of repay it also in getting the title. So it wasn't about the fear.
Yeah,
going freelance.
Okay.
That was also something I was trying to instill in Adela, is that I don't think getting the degree is that necessary. When I was looking for a job in Mexico, they asked me, have you finished the university? And I said, yes, but I would say yes even if I didn't, right? So I don't think it would make such a big difference. But
I agree.
Finishing what you started, I think, is a really important skill. And even though it might not be as helpful as you would have hoped, it's still useful to finish it because it's probably the biggest project you've had so far.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And I agree. That was about this. Yeah. Exactly. And I also think that you don't need a degree, especially in creative field. Nobody cares about your degree. Everybody cares about your portfolio and about how good collaborator you are.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, so now being a freelancer for years, have your goals and priorities shifted? Because when you started, you were illustrating for clients, and I suppose those were little jobs here and there, but eventually you grew and you got stable clients and then started your company, which we'll get to. So what are your priorities now?
They shifted quite a lot. Exactly. I started as a freelance illustrator. I thought that I will be drawing all my life sitting behind the desk and really draw and focus on comic books and everything. But then I got a burnout. And after it, I realized that I want to spread my work among more people to create a team. Also because a lot of people came to me wanting something I really wasn't able to create for them. For example, illustrated logo design. I'm not a logo designer, so I can do something like this, but I'm not a best one to design a logo. Or they wanted something for children, illustrations or comic books for children. And if you see my work from 8 years back, it was really a gloomy, dark, psycho thing. And I wasn't able to do this. So I wanted more people with different styles to serve all these clients. So yeah, then I started my own team. It was the illustration studio, which was just a group of freelancers under my management, I would say. And yeah, that's how it shifted. I started to work in teams, and it was the biggest mindset shift for me. And then we started to work on other projects. Maybe we will get to them.
So it has shifted from being like creating full time to more being a businessman and managing people and that kind of work.
Yeah, kind of. The first years were like this, just managing the people, making the business, and then give it to a freelancer to really craft it, like create the hard stuff. But after some years, I realized that I shall have some additional value to this. And it was creating the concepts, because I found out that a lot of illustrators are not so good in solving the problems of their clients. They're pretty good in drawing itself, but they are not able to solve the problem. So I really focused on understanding the business of my clients so I can really solve their problems, marketing, branding, etc. And then create such a brief for my freelancers that it will be perfect, not only for them to be able to create very well with all the information, context and references that I will create for them, or maybe concepts and sketches and everything is what I can do for them. Creating the concepts and solving the problem, it's my job right now, one of the biggest jobs. And then, of course, the whole art direction and management of the people, kind of leadership or something like that. Yeah, it's also connected with this.
So it seems like you might be a manager, but you're indispensable, because if you didn't have your background in drawing and illustration, you wouldn't know how to present this information, right?
Yes. Sometimes when I work with agencies, some people, accounts, for example, they talk to client, but they don't really know the craft. They don't know how much effort it is, how much time does it take. Sometimes they do, of course, when they are good. But I always come from the background that I really was doing this work many years. I really know what it takes and what can be done, what can't be done, even though I think that everything can be done. Nothing is impossible. Yeah, that's one of the biggest strengths, I think. And some of my clients want to, we would like to talk to the real illustrator and to explain him everything. And I say, no, you can talk to me because it's much better, because I can interpret to the illustrator without the ballast and all the words that you don't really need. And that's also my service for my illustrators, that they don't have to deal with all the stuff and they don't have to talk to the client because they want to focus on the creation, on drawing. I'm between them. I understand both sides very well, and that's my job.
I really like that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that definitely does.
And that is why I'm really afraid of moving from this studio. So somebody can somehow do the work that I do right now, because I need to focus on different projects. And I'm really, really afraid how I can teach.
Your successor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in this, I am a perfectionist.
I mean, this is kind of a perfect position for a control freak, because I feel this way a lot as well. I couldn't imagine giving my work to somebody else to edit, like if I shoot a video. And then I think the edit gives the video life. And if I gave it to someone else, then I cannot really rely on the result. Yes. So I think your position is kind of a good compromise, that you are still in the process while you're not creating it yourself, and you don't have to invest as much time in it.
Yes, in just sitting and really doing the work. Yes, that's why I really came to this position.
So do you mind me asking you about the financials? What brings you the most revenue? Is it still your illustrations or is it the company itself?
Right now, the biggest part of my income is from the studio because it's bigger commissions and more commissions for bigger clients.
Mm-hmm.
If you work in teams, you can do much bigger jobs. And I co-founded a startup. It's kind of a technology/art startup. We say we bring comic books to life. Maybe we get to that. Yeah, that's some kind of income too.
What's the name of it?
It's called Nanits Universe. Basically, it's a platform for selling comic books online, but not only selling, but publishing. Anyone from the world can come and publish the comic book and sell it easily. It's not just some free comic books you can find online. It's a much bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the platform is one thing, but digital comic books are sold around the world on different platforms. Not really that you can just come and publish it for your own price easily, but we have this really different, and we say revolutionary way of reading comic books in digital form. So we don't have pages. It's just scrollable because it makes sense. Nobody wants to flip the pages on their mobile devices or tablets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We also have this music layer. It's intelligent, so it behaves according to what is happening in the scenes. When there is an action scene, there is action music. When there is romantic scene, you have a romantic music and stuff.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And yeah, there are some visual effects, and you can change languages, so you can publish in different languages. And yeah, it's just this startup. And now we are trying to make some business in San Francisco in Silicon Valley with that. And it still needs a lot of work. To finish the question about the finances, and then I have my own illustration jobs. For example, right now I work for a Swedish guy who writes a rock opera, and I create visuals for him, illustrations for the actors and scenes in the play. And it's really dark and psycho, and it really reflects my work when I was like 29.
I'm surprised by the amount of diversity in your work. I was thinking that you just illustrate comics most of the time. Even within comics, there's still a lot of diversity to be found.
It can be, of course. Actually, right now, I'm not so focused on comic books as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I have this startup, which is just comic book industry. I have this illustration studio. We do a lot of comic books or comics for different purposes. It can be commercial or educational or just entertainment. But in my own art, I am more focused on illustration, but it's a kind of comic style illustration. I'm still having fun creating or thinking about some of my personal projects in comics. So it will come. It will come again.
Nice. Now we can go to my favorite topic of yours, which is your podcast. It's called Kreativní kreatury. It's in Czech. And you're co-hosting it with Tomáš Sobel, which is both my and Adela's favorite podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
He's great.
In this country, at least.
Yeah.
So how did you guys met?
I stumbled upon his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was surprised about the quality of sound he had. And I still think, and a lot of people say that it's the best sound in podcasts in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, the production value is really high.
And I was thinking about this idea of working with competition.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that he does these consultations or mentoring for creative freelancers.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this too. I try to support them and consult their problems concerning business side of their work. And he did similar thing, and he had this podcast. And I also wanted to create videos for this kind of target group. And I stumbled upon this idea, working with your competition is better than compete, really, to fight, you know. So I just wrote him on Facebook or something. If he wants to meet, he agreed. Then we had like beer. And I was presenting him my idea about this Kreativní kreatury video cast. And he was interested. So yeah, that's how we met.
I noticed you guys are really consistent in your releases. How much more content do you have in the pipeline? Are you going to run out of things to say?
Yeah, we always run out of things, but nobody will notice because we somehow really get together and create another ones, So right now we have like maybe 35, 40 videos on our channel and like 3 ready. But now we need to again get together because he's in Brno, I'm in Prague. So we always get together and we are recording videos the whole day. We can create like 10 to, I think that our record was like 15 videos or something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really exhausting, really it is. But yeah, and also after lunch, Tomáš is usually like just the gastro dementia. You can't think, and it's really difficult. But that's how we can create the pipeline and have the videos ready in advance. I would like to say you don't have to care about it, but each week you need to promote it and do the marketing and put it among people and in the Facebook groups and create the thumbnails, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we made one video podcast with Adela, one episode. It took us the whole day and
to record it,
to record it, and then it took us about 2 months to edit it. It was 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
About as a regular episode, but I gave it my level of attention in the post-processing. So
we have like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, you don't cut, do you?
We don't cut, usually. It's more natural for us to do it like this. But we tried a stream once, and it was really successful. We had quite a lot of people in their live.
I think I've seen that, actually.
And a lot of people had really great feedback on the stream. So we thought we might go streaming more than recording regular episodes. And maybe then cut the best of the stream.
How long was the stream for?
We thought it will be like an hour or something. Maybe nobody will come. And there were quite a lot of people. And all the time they were interacting with us and asking things. So yeah, maybe almost 3 hours.
You get a lot of feedback, I suppose, from your listeners. What are the biggest mistakes that people make, either from what you've heard or from what you talk about on the podcast? What would be your most common advice to freelancers?
Our most common advice? Build a good portfolio and set a good price. That's something I talk about a lot. There are quite a lot of topics that we cover. It's about productivity of work, effectivity, how you manage your time, and what, for example, what apps a creative can use to support his work. We talk about creative process. We talk about creative brief, which I think it's very important. We talk about communication, your online presence, marketing, yourself as a freelancer, and all these topics that are really important for somebody who needs to care about all this stuff himself or herself.
Yep.
You don't have anybody, you don't have a marketer, you don't have a boss to manage your time, etc. So you're your own boss and you need to have all these skills. Most of these skills, they won't teach you at school. So either you need to go the way I or Tomáš went, getting up and down and testing things. Something works, something don't work. Or you can learn something from the internet, from Kreativní kreatory, or from Freelancers podcast.
True.
Yeah.
Did you see a spike in demand that clients had for you after you started releasing Kreativní kreatory? Was it something that drove the business forward?
Actually, yes. Even though the podcast is not created for supporting my business, like drawing, illustrations, animations, and all this stuff we do, it is not. I don't sell our studio there, but somehow it gets some attention and some of the clients notice this. And also, if they even go so deep that they listen to some of it, they can see that I really admire values like really holding the deadlines and be good in communication, which I think is one of the most important things you can do, these two. And then they come and they want some work from me. So it's surprising, kind of, because as I say, I don't push the studio, I don't push my work in the podcast, but still they can notice this. And maybe I would go to the topic of communication and deadlines, because I think it's really extremely important. As you were asking about what I recommend, maintaining the relationship with your clients to get more work, to be more stable, to have stable clients. For my experience, for most of the clients, it's more valuable to hold the deadlines, to deliver, and to be a good communicator if anything goes wrong. Creating the creative brief, like what you really need to do for your client to solve his problem, creatively solve his business problem. This is more important than to be a top quality freelancer in the craft, for example. So some people can draw like gods, but if they can't draw it till the deadline, it's wasted. It's useless, you know? And if they can draw really beautiful things, but cannot draw it the way that solves the, for example, marketing problem for the client to sell his product or to bring more attention to his brand or something like that. So if they can't solve this, it's useless too. These things, which I believe can be applied to all the freelancers, yeah, it's one of the most important things.
Well, that brings me to Neil Gaiman's talk that I heard or seen recently. Maybe I've talked about it on the podcast, but he says that there are 3 important qualities that a freelancer or an independent worker can have. One is meeting the deadlines. The other one is being really good. And the third one is being pleasant to work with. But 2 of them will do. So if you don't make the deadline, but at least your work is high quality and you're pleasant to work with, you're kind of fine. The same way, if the work is lacking in some ways, but you're on time and you're pleasant to work with, that's fine as well. And yeah, you would say that the deadlines are the most important, right?
Yeah, probably. But, you know, without the communication, it still doesn't work or doesn't have to work, you know. But Neil Gaiman also created several really good comic books. So
I did.
He's a good guy. Believe him.
All right.
When he says so. Also, I don't know if you know this guy, Mark McGuinness. He's also a creative mentor, I would say. He's a poet, but he also does the consultations for creative freelancers. And he also says, stay small, but go global, which is something that resonated with me. For example, our studio, we work online. We're all freelancers. There is just some kind of hierarchy to keep the whole thing going. Like I am with my colleague, Victor. We're in management. He's more a business guy. I'm more of creative director, I would say. And then we have the freelancers, but we don't have a place. We all work remotely. And if you work remotely, you can work remotely also with your clients. So you can go global in your thoughts, in your work, in inspiration for your work. But stay small, not to complicate your business too much. So you can still be a minimalist in the business itself. And that's what really resonates with me. And it's going back to the first question of yours, what I'm working on right now. And it's getting my business more minimalistic, or maybe the decisions I need to do during the day, because it creates more work-life balance, I would say, or less clutter in your head.
How many freelancers do you work with? Just to have an idea.
It depends. I want to say in all my projects, it's maybe 30, 40. But it's really different freelancers. Some of them are illustrators, some of them are animators, some work with sound, some edit video for us, some of them write scripts for comic books. It's quite a lot of people, and it really depends on the kind of commission we have. So then I hire the right people for the particular clients.
And how, since all of you are working remotely, how do you communicate within the team?
When it's a bigger commission, or maybe it's too complicated, of course, we meet in person. I like that. And you need this time to time to meet somebody in person. It's much better. But we use Skype, of course, phone, email, but Trello. Trello is the basic for each commission we do. So each freelancer has his own board
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a place where you have to pay rent, like as a workplace?
Home.
Oh, at home? Okay.
No, for the startup, Nanits Universe, we share a small working place with developers. So we have a place where we can meet. There is a small conference room and several desks that we can use. I personally prefer working from home or from coffee shop or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if I need to, I go there, or we can have some meetings there.
I like that.
But we're talking about management right now. If we work with freelancers, we meet them only time to time. Mm-hmm. Do you use Creative Brief when you work with your clients?
Meaning the client would brief me on what they want and I would ask specific questions?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It works like this. My experience is that client comes and he doesn't have to really understand my field, my area, but he knows that he needs something for his marketing. He needs something like this. So he tells me what is his problem, and I need to think how I will solve it. And to solve it, I need to ask him really good questions, really precise questions, and have a lot of empathy for him, mm-hmm. for what is he saying. Also, it's important to work with language and words, because if a client comes and says he needs the illustrations to be cool, what is it to be cool?
Right.
He wants to have a premium feeling. What is premium feeling? Like, is it Apple it's just white and minimalistic, or is it something like Lexus with gold? It can be premium, both of it. So you need to somehow work on the language, to agree on terms, on the words you use. And it's really important to understand what is the vision of the client, what he really needs. And if you have all these things and you ask the right questions, you need to summarize it in text and let him approve the text. Mm-hmm. This is what I heard. Is it something you really said? This is my interpretation. You want to add something or something like that? And after that, you can start working on the project. And if you do this, you can prevent iterations, corrections, and edits, and etc. Because if the creative brief is really good, then you don't have to think about that you understood something wrong.
Yeah, that actually happened with my latest video. And talking about the deadlines, I will have to come home and finish it today, because I said I'll do it over the weekend.
Oh, poor you.
So I guess I'm not going to bed today. But what happened was that after the shooting was done and I sent them the first edit, they asked me whether I can put a scene of this one person in the video, but I didn't shoot the person, right? Yeah. And I mean, you could say it's the client's fault, but obviously it's my fault because I didn't get the information ahead of time, and I should have. So I'm going to have to edit around it and figure it out some other way. But if I asked the right questions, this wouldn't have happened.
For example, you have this experience. So if you have the creative brief or a set of questions, you always ask your clients when you are talking about the project with them at the beginning. So now you have this experience, so you can have this one more question. Do you need somebody in the video? Do we need to shoot some of your guy's face or something like that? Is it necessary? So you have one more question to add.
Right.
And this is how you really develop your creative brief. It's questions you ask in each commission, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also in creative brief, there shall be some mood board. It's a set of reference pictures or visuals. For us, it's style of the illustrations, colors that we will use, fonts, we will use the mood, the overall stylization, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe that you can do similar things with videos, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, you learn by iteration, I guess.
Yeah.
When I have a wedding client, because I'm mostly wedding photographer, I always have these client meetings beforehand with the bride and sometimes also with the groom. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've developed exactly what you were talking about, a set of questions that I ask them to know like what to shoot and what are the key elements that they want in their wedding photos.
Yes. And it's useful to have this questionnaire because you don't forget about some key questions.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's really good to have a process for this. Like really have a process from the first email from you, which is as much as simple and at the same time giving as much information the client really needs in this phase. And then what are the next steps, how you really work, how are the conditions of your work, to have the creative brief ready, to have the templates for mood boards or the links that you can send for different styles of the video ready. So you don't have to deal with it all the time, every time. You just send the links because you have them prepared, right? So you have this process which really saves a lot of time and a lot of problems if you forget about something.
Yeah.
And you also, at the same time, you are preventing to go wrong direction because everything you talk about with the client is ready according to your previous experience, and you really set like the boundaries for the creative project. So you can't go over the boundaries. So you go just in this one focused way towards the goal.
Yeah, that's really good. I'll make a mental note and I'll come back on the podcast telling you about what changes did I make. Then we can head straight to Kickstarter. That's one of the last topics we have. And I wanted to ask you about your campaigns, because I've seen you have had 2 campaigns on Kickstarter. What did you learn from it? How was the process? What were the pitfalls? And how do you rate it when you look back at it?
Okay, so both of them, they were different campaigns, really, even though they were on Kickstarter and they were on comics. The first one was Kickstarter to publish my own graphic novel, 100-page long comic book.
What's the name?
On the Coast of Dreams, which is a kind of fantasy thing. Father, whose daughter is in coma, goes into the world of dreams to save her.
That's not bad at all.
Well, read it and then you can tell if it is or it's not.
It's kind of related to an idea I have for a movie script, so I like it this way.
I was thinking about that as well.
When I was at the university, this should have been my diploma work, to find a text to convert it into the comics. And I was looking for the topic and I couldn't find anything. So I asked my friend Victor, because he was writing, and I asked him to create a story for me. So he wrote this, and it was like 100 pages long comic. But I knew that I can't do this for a diploma work. So I did like 35 pages of it. Diploma work was great, really great feedback. And then after some years, I think it was years, we thought, hey, the story is good, we like it, so get it among more people. And how are we gonna do this? So let's create a campaign. Let's not be focused only on Czech people, let's go global. You know?
Okay.
That was maybe the problem, one of the problems. We wanted to prolong the comics to make it in its full form in 100 pages. And we created this campaign, we put it on Kickstarter, and then we got this big slap back into our faces, because we found out that we created a campaign with all the previews and everything. We created some videos for it, and it's crazy. I can't watch those videos again because it's you were young and dumb, and you know. And then we found out that Kickstarter itself, the site, the community will bring you like 1, 2, 3% of people you really need to support you.
Oh, you mean you need to
market it.
Yeah.
You need to market it. And we really didn't expect this. We were young, you know, we didn't know. So we needed to create another campaign, like marketing campaign on social media, on forums, you know, write to a lot of bloggers or websites writing about comics and about dreaming or sleeping or something like that, and connect somehow the topics. And it was exhausting. And we were working on this the whole 40 days. I think the campaign was 40 days long. Mm-hmm. And there is also algorithm of Kickstarter. In the first 3 days, if you get, I think, 20 or 25%, you will get featured on Kickstarter or something like this. We didn't know that it's so complicated, and we didn't have the marketing campaign. So sometimes you need to market your Kickstarter campaign, maybe push some money into the campaign to get the money, which is crazy. It's bizarre, but it works this way, right? In the end, it was successful. We got the money from the people. And then that was the biggest fail because I estimated the work for like 6 months of work. But I was working on like 2 years. It was crazy.
But was it just translating the comics?
No, it was, we had the 35 pages of the comic.
Oh, okay.
But we needed the whole 100 pages, which was the graphic novel promoted on Kickstarter. And I really underestimated the time I can give it. I needed to somehow earn money for food, you know, and working on the comic in the evenings. It was 2 years of crazy work. And the last month were like 16 hours a day.
Damn.
It was crazy. And I had a burnout from that. But yeah, it worked. And the second campaign, it was just about the startup. And I really wasn't so much involved in the campaign, but it was successful too. This time it was more about marketing the project, the awareness of the project among some people. The project was supported by investors. So we had the money. Of course, I think we raised like $80,000 or something like this.
Yeah, you raised a lot on the second one.
Yeah. But still, it wasn't like a lot of money in this project because it really eats a lot of resources.
Well, I saw that you surpassed your goal in both of those campaigns. Was it by a narrow margin in the first one? Or like, was it unclear towards the end if you're going to make it?
Yeah, it was, both of them were like, come on. And the curve of Kickstarter campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns are very high at the beginning because you just push it among people and a lot of people are coming in and supporting you. And then somehow the campaign works, lives. And at the end, a lot of people want to succeed it. So some of the people start sharing it too, even though you are asking them during
some of the
whole campaign. Yeah, the backers. If they can see that it is really just a little bit from succeeding, but you have just a little time, they just push it more because they want to succeed it and get the rewards, right? They start to push it or buy more add-ons you can add so they can raise their pledge, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end, the curve goes up again. So the last days are very important too. If you haven't succeeded in the middle, which are the really successful campaigns. But I need to say that at the first or both of the campaigns, I didn't have a single penny from Kickstarter. On the Coast of Dreams comic book, it was just for printing the book and shipping into the world.
Oh.
And it was another crazy thing, printing and shipping to the world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, did it pay for itself? Because I've heard stories where the campaign might have been successful, even like might have surpassed the goal many times. But then the taxes come in, Kickstarter takes its cut, and there's the shipping, right? And that usually breaks the back of a lot of projects. So how was it? Did it pay for itself?
My friend Victor is good in math. We had this covered. We knew about the taxes. We knew about the shipping to different countries, even though you're from Zimbabwe or something like this.
Yeah.
And the money was okay. Did it pay for itself? For shipping and printing? Yes. For the work? After my death, maybe. You know.
Was the second campaign better? Did you take something from the first one and did you set it up better?
Yeah, sure. We knew more about PR. We had a PR colleague and she has a lot of contacts and experience with PR. And it's really, really, really crucial if you want to succeed to have the right people who are willing to share the idea, the information on social media or blogs or websites for those communities. Crucial. So, yeah, marketing is everything.
Do you have any future plans? Is there another Kickstarter coming?
No, I don't want any other Kickstarter campaign right now. Maybe in the future, but no. Future plans. I have so many things I really want to do. I can't finish them till my death. It's just, it's so many ideas I have. I want to work on improving my studio. I probably will need to get more in the startup project with comics because it might be getting bigger. Right now, it's still like a small startup, but we need to go bigger to really succeed. So I will be probably part of it more. And I would love to draw again because I stopped drawing. Several years I wasn't drawing. I was just managing people. And then I found out during the creating Creative in Creatore and talking about the topics and talking about, for example, personal projects, how they are really crucial for your motivation to stay in the work, not to burn out from the client work, commercial work, and also to be more creative, because I started to be focused more on people and leadership and management and business. I still feel to be an illustrator and comic artist in the essence. Mm-hmm. I got this iPad Pro with the pencil, awesome thing. And I can go to the cafe or restaurant to have a beer and draw, and just draw somewhere else than behind the desk where I do all the management stuff. So I just change the location, and I can enjoy my coffee and draw. And it's it's so good. It's so good. I need to draw more. Yeah, that's one of the things. Pay attention to your personal projects and projects you really love to do, and create your own if you don't have any. It's really important for the motivation. For example, graphic designers or illustrators, they all love to draw, right? And that's why they started to do graphics. Mm-hmm. And if you stop doing this, you're going to die. Yeah. You're going to die.
There's a burnout coming, right?
Yeah. I also started to take some commissions, little ones. Mm-hmm. I know that it will be pleasure to work on them. So it's a really big change for me. I know you're talking to an illustrator, so you don't suppose that this is the problem. But the last years, I was really more like a creative manager. Mm. I'm just looking for the right balance. I know I am a good creative manager, I would say, creative director, how you really want to name it. But I also need to draw.
Well, it's official. You said it here. so we have future
Next
plans.
Kickstarter campaign coming.
So where can people find you?
Just check out my website. It's michaelpetrus.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. It's Michael Petrus-art, I think. You will find me. And other social media and stuff, YouTube, and you will find me. I'm everywhere.
I'll put the links in the show notes. All right. So thank you very much for coming. Those were all our questions. And it was a pleasure to have you on.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And that's it.
It's the sounds of our lives.
Já jsem lhal, já jsem dostudoval, ale potřeboval jsem jako ty ruce.
I actually met Michael on a Fuck Up Night event in Prague, where he was giving a speech about his burnout. I know his podcast, so I totally fanboyed him at the end of the show and asked him to come to speak on Freelancers.
Michal Petrus, udělat si to hezký a neposrat se.
Right after recording of this episode, Michael and I went to a pub to get some beers because I still had a lot of questions for him.
Ty nespíš, to znamená, že ty se nemůžeš probudit. Ty jsi aktivní, ty dělej.
At this time I was getting, if not depressed, then definitely burned out myself, and Michael knew exactly what to tell me. That conversation alone helped me tremendously to find the right direction. More on that later. As you probably saw in your podcast feed, we completely redesigned our visuals.
So now finally we have the visuals the way I wanted them back when we first started the podcast. So I am finally happy with them.
Yeah, I agree. This is much better than what we used to have.
I was actually inspired by the Mustards and their visuals for their podcast.
So we got our pictures taken
by my great friend Alžběta Pilařová, who is also a photographer. And she has an amazing studio in her own home. It was a lot of fun. The pictures turned out amazing, and I'm really happy that our friend did them for us. So thank you, Bětko. And we will leave her website in the show notes.
Yeah, the photo shoot was excellent. It was a lot of fun. And this is the recording of us having the pictures taken.
Dej si ruku třeba do kapsy, tu pravou.
Palec bych dala spíš než celou.
Adele also wanted to create some consistency on our Instagram feed, and so we came up with a design that uses a big capital F as its cornerstone. What do you think about the design, Adele?
I love the design from the very start.
Yeah.
And I love the way it's spread throughout our Instagram feed.
So we are planning on creating like a checkboard pattern on our feed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also used it and adopted the design for our YouTube channel. So all our visuals are completely brand new.
Yes. Since my job in France wrapped up before Christmas, I had to figure out what to do next. I spent almost 2 months in Prague trying to finish as many photography gigs as possible, but I also managed to score a freelance content writer job for a new online magazine called Peak. You can read my articles on peak-magazine.com. The link is also in the show notes. I also started a project that is similar to Humans of New York or Humans of Prague. However, this is regarding seniors and their stories. That's why I did a bunch of interviews with some amazing ladies that keep on surprising me by how active they are given their age.
No, to už ale nebylo hodně. To už mě bylo 54 let.
These 2 remote jobs will help me out financially on my big European road trip. I left Prague a few days ago and I will be on the road for 2 whole months, visiting some of the best places in Europe. After those 2 months, I am planning on stopping in Portugal and getting an apartment there. Living in Portugal has been a big dream of mine for quite some time now, and it's finally becoming a reality.
Tak pa. Ciao.
I also made a step towards independence, and one of the biggest news in my life is that I'm starting to shoot commercial videos for companies. I teamed up with Victor, who is the actor that I shot 2 of my video projects with in the past, and we're starting a company. I can't share much at this stage, but this is us on our way to our first client meetings.
The second one is a little bit tricky because they have a lot of stuff they are doing.
Yeah, so it will be even more difficult for us to convey it in a short, like 1-minute video, but we'll manage. So there was one more thing we wanted to say, Michael?
Talk to you next time. No, I can't say the last word in the whole 2 hours. Talk to you next time.
That was
good.
Awesome.